everyone, this is Ellie Mae with Swift Creek Customs, and today I wanted to share with you how you can use the tools in the Siser Leonardo Design Studio software to create with other crafts. In this video, I'm going to share with you how I use the rhinestone tool and the export tool that are Leonardo Design Studio Pro options for creating beading patterns. Now, I have recently gotten into the hobby of beading. I love it. Here's a look at the pattern that I created, and I want to share with you how I was first inspired by the Siser Leonardo library and how I created this pattern using the rhinestone tool. Now, you could also create additional patterns in different ways, but this is just one way and one technique that I used. So let's go ahead and take a look at the Siser Leonardo Design Studio software and this pattern that I created with the rhinestone tool. So here's just an example. Here is my working file that I created in the software. I first went to the Siser library on the left-hand side, the design library, and I was simply looking for designs. Now this one, it'll take me a second to bring it back up because it was the other day. Here it is right here. This design is a geometric X pattern, and so I started with this as my inspiration for the beading pattern that I created. So I'm just going to go back to my software. I'm going to click open design. It's going to open on that current design mat, and then I'm just going to cut this, Control X, and I'm going to open a new design mat and just paste that there. So this is my inspiration, and this is what I was using as I was creating this. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to draw a rectangle the size of my beading pattern. So I'm just going to grab that and I'm just going to draw a rectangle. It doesn't matter what size it is right now. I'm just going to use the scale tools in the bottom of the properties panel, and I'm going to change this to 1 inch wide by 8 inches. Now keep in mind, your bracelet size is going to be dependent on the person you are creating it for. So we are all different in the sizes of our wrist, but this is what I started with for my design creation. I'm actually going to change this to a stroke option because I don't need to see that. Now, with my rectangle selected, I am going to come down to the bottom toolbar, and in the Build Contours menu, you're going to see the Rhinestone panel. And Rhinestones is a Design Studio Pro feature. And this menu here will be whatever icon you last selected. So in this case, it's showing as Build Contours, but just wanted to mention that in case it's something different. So I'm going to select the Rhinestone panel. And here you can create your rhinestones, and you could change the colors here. It's going to be whatever works best for you and for seeing it. Now I will say, when I started, I'm going to choose black. I tried aqua, you could hardly see it, but you could probably choose something like blue. Blue would be okay. The black, when I first created this original design, the black kind of played tricks with my eyes, so I had to take a little bit of a break between designing. You'll see what I mean here in a second. Some people might find this tedious and others might find it relaxing, so I thought I would share how I used the Leonardo Design Studio to create my beading pattern. Now, at the fit and fill options, I'm using a fill only. If I choose the vector or the border and fill together, those stones are too close together and I really don't need them on that outer edge, so I'm simply using the fill option. And then you could adjust it also as needed for whatever you would like to. If you needed an extra row, you could either make the rectangle wider or you could change your spacing as well. Completely up to you. So you could also change the spacing here. I'm just getting a basic pattern to start with. I'm going to click accept and then click off of it to deselect it. And now I actually have my beading pattern is separate from my rectangle. So I can keep this for future projects. Now here, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pull this design in so I'm going to Control C, Control V, just so I can see that original shape that I used. So I like to work with my patterns in horizontal, even though I drew it vertical. So I'm simply going to hold my shift key down and grab that green triangle, and it will rotate it at specific angles. And then if we zoom in on this pattern, I have the X's here, and maybe you can see here where it can kind of start to play tricks on you with your eyes. But it really is a cool little technique when you start working with it. And you can see beading patterns that are either circles or squares. So if you wanted to draw a small square and then use the tile function to create a beading pattern, that's another way as well. So I'm going to show you how I did this. I'm going to zoom in on this pattern here. And I'm simply going to select both of these and center them. Just kind of getting an idea where the center of this design would be. And I believe what I did was I ended up, in order to change the color of all these individual circles to make your pattern, right click, choose paths. Whoop, you got to select the design first. Right click, choose paths, and then choose ungroup. When I click off of it and back on, all of these little circles are individual now. So we can adjust them as needed, especially when you first start. It can be tedious to click on the little circles, but I've come up with a few tricks. So my first one is I found that I needed an extra row on this design just so that I could make it even when I got down to creating it. So I can simply left click, drag across all of it. And most times you probably wouldn't know that until the very end, but I'm going to share that little tip with you up front. And then I can simply make Control C, Control V, use my left arrow key, and it's going to bump it out just a little bit. And what I can do is hold my shift key down and then use my arrow key to bring that back in a smaller increment. So I can get that kind of sized and lined up with the design. So now every single one of these circles is individual. And all I'm going to do is come in here and I'm going to come to the center. So let's call this one our center. And the center of this is probably the most difficult or harder to pinpoint to get started. I'm going to click on this circle. I'm going to create my diamond shape right here. Let's see. Yep, diamond shape right here. That matches this diamond shape. So I have one circle selected. I'm going to hold my shift key down. Since it's in a diagonal, I can't use drag select. So I'm just simply going to click on those circles to select them. And I'm going to continue working in this diamond pattern. Now, if you lose track of it, that's not a problem. Simply keep what you have selected and then come over here. I am actually going to click on this little palette here. I'm going to enter a specific color. So my hex code for this, let's see if I get this one right. It was 028C84. That was an aqua-ish teal. And when I click OK, I'm a little bit off, but that's okay. What I can do, I have most of my diamond pattern. So we'll start with this one. And now what I can do is this color eyedropper here. I can simply select that color. It's going to change that one. Click on this one, use that eyedropper again, and I can change that back to the blue. And then if your eyes are playing tricks, save the file, come back to it later. But it is one way you can just have some fun and play with this design. Now here they have an open space in this geometric pattern. So I'm going to leave a row there. Let's go ahead and change this center here. So I'm going to hold my shift key down and I'm simply selecting those circles. And then I'm going to come up here to this again, and I'm going to choose a gray. I don't use white simply because you can't see it on the screen. So I usually use a gray for the white. And then I'm going to continue in that pattern. So here's a trick. You can decide how wide you want this X that's in the center. I use 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bump that up just a little bit. So I'm starting with this one. What I can do is I can drag select, or rubber band select as some people call it. I'm going to left click, drag across the left and go over 3. If I hold my shift key down, I can let go of my mouse. Those 3 are selected. And then I know I want these 3. I can left click, drag my mouse across, and now I have 2 rows that each have 3. I'm going to change that color so we can see it on the screen. CA00CA. So I used a purple. And there I have my beginnings of my X. Now, like I said, some may find this tedious and some may not want to even try it at all, but it opens up some possibilities that maybe you can think about ways you can use what's called the rhinestone panel for other projects and craft things. So I am going to go through and I'm going to finish out this design and then create a bracelet with it. So I'm going to go through, and really I've already done it, so I'm not going to do it again, but you'll get the idea here. If I bring this in, and I wanted to share with you how I did it. So zoom in here on this. F4 brings it out a little bit. So I just started, and here I got the colors off. So mine was purple in the middle, which is just fine, and color really doesn't mean anything until you go to bead your bracelet, except, you know, sometimes the color combination together, the pattern may speak to you a little bit more than if it was in different color scheme. So just keep that in mind when you're creating. If you're creating for yourself, it's no big deal. I use this blue, this purple and this teal pattern with some black and gray for the white. And then I would just continue here. I like to zoom in on the specific areas, but I made the X, and then I started with just a single line of the purple, and then I did a double of black, double of white, double of purple, white, and I just continued to make that pattern all the way out to the very end of the bracelet. So future Ellie Mae, jumping in this video as I was editing it, I realized that I forgot to share how to export, or how I exported this to use it in a PDF mini guide that I created. Make sure to check out the links in the video description below. If this event is still going on for the class that I taught, you can check that out in the links below, and I have that mini guide for that class. So in this, I am sharing, this is a look at my working file. You can see I actually created 2 of this. It's the same design, just 2 different color schemes. But when I went to export it, I could not just export the rhinestone pattern. So I'm exporting as a PNG file. If I export it with just the bead pattern, I didn't have the background. So I'm going to change my view here to under view, show dark matte, so you can see this here. So I ended up creating a rectangle, or using the original rectangle. I made a copy, and then I changed that to the white fill color, and I'll bring this one over here. I'll use this one as an example. I left clicked and dragged across both of them to select them, and then I made sure that it was aligned using the align tools in the bottom toolbar. Then I came up to file and export artwork. And then I came down to the bottom. I'm using select artwork only, came to the bottom and chose PNG file. In the PNG, it will have a transparent background of anything that's not around the design. So I'll still have my white background because it's part of the object I had selected. And I'm going to choose save, and it's going to ask me where I want to save it. This way I could then use the PNG file in creating my ebook, or my mini guide. It's really just a mini guide that I offered to the All Access Pass members for this event. So then here's a look at the page with my pattern. I included my pattern with a little color key. Again, color is completely up to you and what you use in your pattern, but sometimes it can steer your like or dislike of a certain pattern. And then I actually shared both of these in this little mini guide. So I was able to just swap out the colors, and then I was able to create with that. So here's a look at the finished project created with the pattern that I drew in the Siser Leonardo Design Studio software off of the inspiration from a design in the Siser library. If you have any questions, make sure to leave those in the comments below. There's additional information in the description of this video as well. I hope this video has inspired you a little bit to think outside the box on what you could use the tools in the Siser Leonardo Design Studio software for. Thanks for watching and have a great day.